Brother lads, welcome back to Cossy podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. Arsenal 5, Barcelona 3. What a game we've watched this morning. It's been a very, very good thriller, a very good game. And I think Thomas Partey needs a lot of credit. Thomas Partey needs a lot of praise in that game. For you to be able to break down FC Barcelona's midfield like that, that is something special. He was absolutely unplayable in that game. He was purely superb in that game. And I think it has just communicated to Mikel Arteta, Edu, and whoever is in charge of the transfers that he's got to stay at no matter the cost. At all costs, you've got to keep Thomas Partey. He's so important to the way we play. He's so important when we don't have the ball, but he's so important for our chance creation. You look at that Kai Havertz goal. You look at how quick he is to get that ball into to get that ball rolling into Bukayo Saka, and he just catches so many Barcelona players off guard. What a game. 5-3. I didn't expect the goals. None of you expected all these goals. I thought it was going to be a 2-1. My prediction was a 2-1. I had a few predictions from you where it was 3-1, 3-2. And you could think it was going to be a very, very close call, right? It was supposed to be a close game. But Arsenal came with that, vengeance. Arsenal came with that, feeling that we've got to bounce back and we've got to do it with, against a much better side. And indeed, we did it against a much better side. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. Let me know who was your man of the match. Leandro Trossard was named player of the match. Obviously, those two goals we will talk about, but he was so good as well. Did miss a couple of chances. He looked a little bit off, especially in the first half, but when he got going, especially in the second half, he was absolutely brilliant. Did you like the changes and tweaks to the starting 11? And do you think it is sustainable? Our lineup is now sustainable. Actually, our squad is now sustainable. Do you think the rotations we are making and the rotations that we are actually able to make? Kivio comes in for Saliba, Tierney comes in for Timber. Do you think those changes are now sustainable for us to go and announce ourselves as serious title contenders? Let me know in the comment box right below. Now, let's start off with the important part of this game, which is always the statistics between Arsenal and FC Barcelona. You've always got to go with the statistics because whereas Arsenal had 20 shots on goal, and that actually massively improved in comparison to our last game. I think against Manchester United, we did struggle to create chances. We did struggle to announce ourselves as a safely quality creating side. In this game, that was very different. We had 20 shots on goal, and many of those were actually, missed chances. We had 9 shots on target, scoring 5, which shows that our clinical levels are going up a little bit, because 9, you score 5. That is more than 50% of what we converted of the shots on target. Although in terms of the overall shots, we need to make sure that we add accuracy to the shots. At least if you have 20 shots, maybe 13 should be on target, maybe 14 should be on target. Barca on the other side, they really struggled in midfield. They really struggled to create anything. But when they did create, they did actually score. 9 shots on goal, 4 on target. But the difference was always going to come in terms of who keeps the ball better. And I said this in the preview before we went into the game, that we expect Barca to be a very different kind of animal and team to Manchester United. Against Man United, you will keep the ball. Erik ten Hag at the moment is still looking to play on the transition. He's still looking to leave you with the ball and hurt you on the transition. Barca are not like that. Barca actually love to play a little bit safer. They want to. The best way for them to defend is to actually keep the ball for themselves. So you can see in the statistics that is actually reflected. 60% ball possession for Barcelona, more touches on the ball, 422, as compared to Arsenal's 40% ball possession and 285 touches or passes in that game. And of course, that is a positive, a very huge positive for Arsenal. Why? Obviously, like I said yesterday, you're not going to win every game, right? That you dominate. Similarly, you're not going to dominate every single game throughout the campaign. There are games where you're going to play a much better side at keeping the ball, a much better side at winning the ball back quicker, at a much better side in terms of, moving the ball around. So what do? You've got to be much lethal and much better at the transition. You look at that Kai Havertz goal. Thomas Partey is in that midfield. It's a free kick, but he quickly finds Bukayo Saka. So literally, that is not a team goal where Arsenal have literally played out from the back, and they have had these 20, 30 touches. It is one touch from Partey to Saka. I think Saka takes around 2-3 touches to beat his marker, lifts that ball over the Barcelona defense, a header from Odegaard, and a finishing touch from Kai Havertz. So it shows you. And then you look at the Leandro Trossard's second goal. Kieran Tierney dribbles into the final third. Then he crosses that ball, and on the bounce, it is Leandro Trossard. Again, another goal where Arsenal are not having many touches, but the few touches were purely effective. So I loved that. I really loved the second side of Arsenal. That should be our plan B, right? That should definitely be our plan B. Our passing accuracy is not very, very different. They had an 86% ball passing accuracy. We had an 82% ball passing accuracy. Obviously, they drew more fouls because they're that good. 22 fouls for Arsenal, only 12 from them. But I thought we were very, very good. So the key takeaways in this game, and I think Mikel Arteta will have seen this, the first thing is that you've got to work with Thomas Partey. I think that is the thing we've got to talk about. Like, I asked who was your man of the match. Mine was Thomas Partey. I like Leandro Trossard. He really played well. But Trossard played very well in the second part of the game. Partey played well in all parts of the game, in all halves of the game. His influence for Arsenal in both boxes is absolutely, so important. Like, I can't emphasize enough how important Thomas Partey is to us. I can't emphasize enough. Probably if you've ever seen Rodri out of Manchester City, I think that is how important Partey is to us. He's so important to an extent that there is a huge difference between him and Declan Rice, despite the fact that Declan Rice is also world beaters level when it comes to interceptions, winning the ball back. He's an elite ball winner. Like, technically, he's just an elite ball winner. But Thomas Partey is so different. One of the things you like about players like Partey, and you saw it when Frankie de Jong actually came onto the pitch in the second half. When they have the ball, they literally have all the action ahead of them, but they have that ability to constantly pick the right pass. And that's what he did yesterday. Like, there is nothing much he really does extraordinarily from other players. What he literally does is pick that right ball, pick that right pass every single time. And that is exactly what he was doing yesterday. But let's talk about Kai as well before I forget. So I wanted us to talk about Kai, especially in the goal that he scored, but also in the amount of times he was fouling players and the physicality was bringing to this game. So Kai Havertz is not a player that Arsenal are going to play with this sensational feeling of adding vibes and entertainment to the game. That is not Kai. That is not what exactly he gives you. So what Kai Havertz gives you is what you saw in that goal against FC Barcelona. So when Saka draws himself into the penalty area, there are two players that have occupied the back post. That is Martin Odegaard and Kai Havertz. So that is exactly what we want from Kai. That is exactly what Mikel Arteta is expecting Kai Havertz to be doing every single time. You expect him, and I'm going to pause. I'm going to I'm going to show you right this. I really hope he has no copyright. So this is what happened. This is your Bukayo Saka arriving at the penalty area. So I want you to look at those two Arsenal players arriving into the penalty area, right? So Bukayo Saka then continues his run. On top of the picture is Kai Havertz arriving in the penalty area. He's arriving later than any other player, but he eventually scores the goal. So that is Saka very well beating his marker, and then Odegaard just this is the brilliance with Kai. So Odegaard goes up in the air. Kai is taller. He doesn't decide to go for that ball, right? But look at what he does when Odegaard actually goes for the ball. So that is not a nod down from Odegaard. That is Odegaard trying to go for goal. But he has already anticipated that because he's given himself 2-3 steps back, Odegaard is not going to generate enough power to put this ball into the back of the net. So what he does, he gives himself that little yard, right? So you can see now the space between Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard, and the finish is just so simple. Again, he's not a player that is going to score for you, screamers, very difficult goals and all that. That is not him. But those are the goals and those are the situations that we have actually signed him to do for us. Like, Xhaka did that very well last season. But do you know how many chances Arsenal could have scored at the back post last season? And even in that game, I'm going to talk a little bit about Saka and his finishing, and probably Ramsdale, okay? But I wanted us to talk about Kai, and I want you guys to keep your eyes on Kai, on Kai's movement. Every single time you see him on the pitch, every single time you see him, playing football for Arsenal, watch his movement off the ball, okay? So the first thing I saw when he scored that goal, is where exactly was he, and how does he anticipate that ball is going to fall into that area, right? Because that should have been an easy clearance for Barcelona, but it wasn't, because Kai Havertz had actually occupied that space. So let's talk about Saka. Clearly influential in the game, assisting, scoring, but the missed chances. Saka is our star player, and this goal actually brings out that very well. He is our star man. He's our star player. And when you're a star player, when you are a star man for a club, you've got to raise your standards above what Saka has already done. It is not a criticism. It is a point for him to become better. The chances he missed in that game, I don't want to talk about the penalty. Like, penalties are missed, penalties are scored, right? But the amount of chances he missed in that game and how easy they were, those should be becoming routine finishes for Bukayo Saka. Those should be routine finishes for any player that has announced himself as one of the best in England, as one of the best in this Arsenal side. They should be routine finishes. Like, there's no question about that. So I want him to work on his finishing. Last season, his finishing was really, really improved. Next season, if he can improve his finishing by at least another 10%, right, or another 15%, he's going to be a much better player. He's going to be in a much better place as a player. Now, I know some of you are going to come onto Aaron Ramsdale, especially on the free kick. I think Ramsdale is unlucky in that free kick scenario. I don't know why we have gone with a wall of 2 players. I think it should be wider every single time. 3-4 players. And then the moment he finishes, setting up the wall, the free kick goes, and he shifts to position himself, and the ball is placed right where he's coming from. So I really don't blame him much. My problem with Ramsdale is his decline in ball distribution and the way he's putting the ball out of play whenever we are actually building out. He needs to work on that. He's absolutely got to work on that. I like him as a player. I don't have a problem with him. He's one of the players that I really rate at Arsenal. But I think he's got to work on his ball distribution now, right? With goalkeepers like Onana storming the Premier League, it is not going to be long before the standards are actually raised, especially for goalkeepers. So he's got to work on that, right? He's literally got to work on that. But otherwise, it was a very healthy game, a very good game. Arsenal really bounced back. Like, we needed that. Okay, we really needed that. My boy Fabio Vieira was onto the score sheet as well. That was a cracker, wasn't it? That was a cracker. My problem with Fabio is, if you're going to perform those miracles and those wonders, you need to be more consistent. I think there is a player in Fabio Vieira. I think there is a Bruno Fernandes in Fabio Vieira. I think there's a Bernardo Silva in Fabio Vieira. Because whatever he does, he's sure it's the right thing. I don't think he's short of confidence like Kai Havertz. I think Fabio is just inconsistent, right? So if he can increase the consistency at which he's doing those little cameos and beautiful things, we've got a player there. We really do.